So let's have a look at Orc Barracks and let's compare two companies together. This is TTcombat, fully built. If you haven't seen the build review already, it's already done, this is the Tabletop Scenics. Very, very close comparison. Tabletop Scenics came out first, I believe, then TTcombat. Let's see what TTcombat has to offer. It's quite a close call, almost very copycat. But let's build, let's see what it's like. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all of that jazz. Be interested to know your thoughts as the video goes on. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoy. Hi and welcome to another video from me, Christopher at DBG. So we're going to be building the TTcombat Barracks. I bought this because I really wanted to compare it to the Tabletop Scenics building. I messaged Tabletop Scenics and said, have you seen this orc building? It's very similar to yours. And I said, yeah, it is quite similar. They're very professional, didn't want to say anything. But it's a bit worrying because it's almost, certain parts of it are almost too similar. Like really, really similar. I don't think it has the same leveling approach as the Tabletop Scenic stuff as TTcombat's does, but it does have some interesting things. It's got like their own version of leveling, which is using their different thing card and stuff like that. So let's get this open. Let's see the pieces. Let's build it, and let's see how, if it is exactly the same. Is it a matter of fact that it is a massive copyright issue that we just didn't even know about? Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's laid out very differently. Tabletop Scenics has all their things numbered, where this just has the sprue numbered. So, you know, it's quite simple. You can tell what it is. Obviously, the orc plates going round on a curvature. And they haven't got this one numbered, but I presume it's 2. Oh, they have, right in the middle. 2 of 4. So again, nice little bits, nice little touches on there. And then number 3, it's quite nice. It's got a little bit of orc decorations and things like that in there. So that could be almost, you know, almost like your plates and stuff like that. It looks quite funky. Then what they have is a 3D element, which I've never been a fan of these card things. They do work sometimes they don't really work at all. But like all MDF, get some warm water, get a cloth, give it a little bit of a clean, not dampening, but just a little wash, just to take off the pattern and the material that they use in the laser printing. Basically, it will help it glue, it'll help it stick, and it'll help it paint better as well. So it's worth doing, spending like 2 seconds doing it basically. But I do really like it. I think it's a nice structure. We can compare it to that in a moment, and the Tabletop Scenic stuff that we bought already. I've already reviewed, and that's already in the Orc terrain list anyway. That's it unpainted at the moment, obviously. I am in the process of getting it painted, so probably when you next see all the Tabletop Scenic stuff, it's going to be fully painted on one of the mats that we got from Urban Mats, so that'll be quite cool. But I really wanted to build this, I really wanted to compare it. That's my biggest thing. I think it's always nice to compare different MDF kits, find out which one you really like. Now, I always said the Tabletop Scenic stuff is amazing, but it is a definitely higher difficulty rating than some of the Tabletop Scenics, Tabletop TTcombat stuff that I've had previously. TTcombat tends to be a lot flatter, and not really that much detail in there. Perfect, cheap, great for games and stuff like that. Not that much cheaper than the Tabletop Scenic stuff if you go to like Whaling Games and stuff like that that sell it in the UK, or directly if you're in Europe. But this is the first time I've seen anything from TTcombat that have really put anything in place that adds that real 3D element that I've personally got. I've got a Sandstorm set, and that's quite nice. Review building of that will be coming up after Christmas, because I'm doing like a painting and everything, and with the weather it sort of delayed that going through. I had the Gothic set, which is really flat buildings apart from the high Gothic set, which is quite nice, adds a little bit of texture to it, but not too much. So they're the two main parts I got. So this is different than what I've got already. So what I'll do is load up the instructions, which are online. So a little bit annoying in that sense, they're not anywhere printed like that. So in that case, Tabletop Scenics is winning there, because they have the instructions printed with it as well as online. So I'll get my laptop out, load up that, and then really just build from there, see how it goes. I don't know if I can do it all in one. I'll see. It might need an overnight glue in some parts, especially if I need to do the inner layer first. But it'll be interesting to know, interesting to see. So I'll do step by steps of where I think you might go wrong. If not, I'll just keep going and tell you what I've done. But it'd be nice to see it all fully built and compare it to Tabletop Scenic stuff unpainted, and then I'll get both painted and see what I like next together on that. The painting won't be in this video, unfortunately. It's taken me a bit of time to get them all painted, so got a lot of other things to paint first. But this is just a build review. First time I've seen it. Let's start building. So far, pretty easy to build. Instructions are a little bit meh, so you just really have to concentrate on the part. The perfect example is if you look at the sprues. I've broken that side, but if you look at the sprues, I'm using like 3 different types, and that was just to do 2 sides, so they're not actually clear where they are, and they don't tell me what sprue number they're on either, so it's a bit painful on that way. So you really got to concentrate on where you're looking to make sure you get the right sprues. So just put the first panel in here, but the first part was just doing this little, what looks like an outshack, toilet type thing, and then the door. It's quite easy to tell if you take the comparisons of the door to Tabletop Tactics, wherever you are on here. There we go. You can see the level of detail on this door here, on the Tabletop Scenic stuff is so much more. There was like almost 15 parts into that door with a 3D element, and really adding in TTcombat 4 parts. Doesn't have as much as the element you want, but you know, it's a tenner, that's 15. I think it's I'll go for about 12 or something like that. So a couple quid cheaper, definitely a little bit cheaper in the way it looks. Obviously painting it can drastically change the model anyway. So far it's a nice kit. It's alright. My biggest concern is these parts going round, because in this one you had a base, you had a really stable base. This got nothing, absolutely 0 base whatsoever. So it relies on these bits going all the way around being really secure. Now while you're doing it, it's going to be really difficult, so I'm almost going to do one on this side, one on the other side, one on the other side, one on the other side, and rotate like that way just to add stability. Thing to bear in mind is just where you're going on here. So you start on one side, map it, and almost do that, and that's the way you're going to look at it. So I know full well that this bit is going to be bottom on this side, and I'll rotate around again. That one's going to be on that side. And do that basically is the way I'm going to work it out. Because it is concerning when there's no middle or there's no base, because that means that it has to be ultra stable on that part, because everything else that's going on top of this is going to be weighing heavily on that part, and there is quite a big chunk to go on top, which is that thing there, which is basically all the other parts. So let's keep going, let's get the whole structure done, and then come back and then we'll see how it's going. So done all the curvature, nice and simple, going round. So remember, all the detail is going to be removed from this side, so the side of the door, because it's going to have the big top on, in a sense, which is where you can have another level where orcs or whatever army you're going to be using is standing on top. So it's the back end which get all this detail in the MDF. I still see some glue drying on there, don't you? It's a bit of splatters. Let's give that a bit. There we go. So where the sort of portaloo ends and stuff. To add more stability inside as well, what I've done, it looks quite a lot of PVA glue, just because I haven't been neat. Basically, I just wanted to glue all the points inside where all of these are meeting. So eventually, when it dries, it'll be rock solid. So it will add a load more stability. Now it is quite stable, a little bit. Some of the panels are a little bit, can be pushed in a little bit easier, but once that glues inside, it will be better. So actually, I'm good to carry on building. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start the next part, which is getting the top on. It says to do it separately on the instructions, so that's what I'm going to do, and go from there really. But otherwise, it's quite an easy build and it's quite quick. It's not too bad. It's not a bad building. If you need some quick barracks, I mean, if you see a size comparison at the moment, and not far off the same size, I'd say almost identical at the moment. Yeah, pretty much identical for size wise. TTcombat maybe a little bit bigger. But let's have a look at it. Let's get the next part on. So we finished the build. Now it's relatively easy. The top part was just a really simple 4-piece putting together and just matching it up and then slide it on. Now you could, in theory, leave it out actually and use it almost like an orc bridge. Quite cool, but I wanted to build it and put it in properly. And you don't even need to glue it if you don't want to, and just put it in. I wanted to glue it just because that's what the building suggests, and that's what the finished product should look like. But if you want to leave this top bit out, you don't have to put it in. Now, the only concern with it is the instructions are awful. They don't really tell you what part to go where, so it's a bit of a guessing game. And you have all these loads of leftover bits, which are quite cool. But actually, where do you put them? Some parts don't even work. So I just sort of, as you can see on the top bits, oops, it's still drying there. On these bits I've just added parts, there I've added sort of just a curve. Down the bottom here, on both sides, it looked a little bit plain because it's one of the parts, as you can see there, just some spikes just going out. Now it's quite a nice build. I don't know if it's, you can tell it's still pretty fresh and glued, so little panels going in, you know, it was quite cool. I do like it, but if I had to compare the two, I don't think there's really much comparison, if I'm honest. Way about the same, size wise about the same. If you look from the tops, you look from the sides, and you've got that really cool orc head through the Tabletop Scenics, and then you've got a little bit of colour and things like that in there, and you've got a little bit of a head there in the corner, but it's odd. It's almost like TTcombat tried to do it and just fell short, where Tabletop Scenics one hands down is the better build. The instructions are better. The fact you've got 2 levels to it is cool. You know, you've got Watchtower and the middle part there. This bit's got, you know, big part of it. Really cool. I think both of them on the battlefield will look quite decent together. You know, obviously you don't always want the same buildings repeated all the time, so that's quite important actually, to add some variety on there. But I do feel the TTcombat has fell short in what could be a lot of detail, and Tabletop Scenics shows that detail off quite easily by having the layer effect. It takes a lot longer to build. It's a little bit more expensive, but not by much, but a couple quid. You do need to take your time with it. TTcombat built it in about 2 hours, you know, and it looks alright. You know, it's good to go on a board. You don't have to paint, you know, this MDF scenery. It's got enough sort of dark effects and stuff like that in there. I recommend you do, just because it looks odd next to painted models. But you know, it's not a bad piece. I think it's alright, but I definitely rate TT Combat lower than Tabletop Scenics. That's just my personal opinion. It'll be interesting to know what you guys think. Have you ever used both of these companies before? Have you seen them? Have you actually done anything with these two companies? Or you've used a different one? Be interested to know that. And specifically, let's stay on orc scenery. I think that would be a really cool thing if you have found any orc scenery and stuff like that. That's quite well. Obviously, you've got the Games Workshop stuff, which is, you know, from the Speed Freak stuff, which is just sort of barricadey stuff at the moment. And you've got their workshop, which I don't really like that much, especially for its price. And the Tabletop Scenics workshop is so much better. The fact that I can fit a rhino in there, or you know, that's a true scale of how big it is big. If you haven't seen any of the Tabletop Scenics scenery and stuff, check out the playlist of Orc Terrain Season 2. Go through all that. But as overall, it's quite a nice piece of scenery. So it'd be nice to know what all your thoughts are. So wherever you are in the world, make it a good one, and happy hobbying.